Now, let me have the pleasure of requesting Ambassador P.S. Kaberia through the MC, Martin, to make his presentation. P.S. Ambassador Kaberia is very widely experienced, and he can give an insight on how trade is going, not so much between availing products from Africa to the rest of the world, but also looking at how that can be brought here to the intra-African trade, because we see that we are, as Frank has said, we are so short of, we have fallen short of the opportunities available. In some cases, I'd say we are just at 2%, especially when you think of people like Rwanda and Congo. Welcome, Ambassador P.S. Kaberia, and it is wonderful to see you here.
Thank you very much, Prof. Dean, and my friend and my brother, and also the CEO, Trademark, other members of the Strathmore academic family, and all the invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. I'm really delighted to be here today during the SME conference and the expo, where we are deliberating on how policy measures put in place have impacted the SME growth, especially during this COVID-19 pandemic period, which has had a very big effect on SMEs. SMEs are engines of growth, vital to most economies, and account to about 95% of the farms in most countries. They create jobs, contribute to GDP and industry development. They satisfy local demand for services, innovate, and support large farms with input and services. In Africa, Dr. You've seen SMEs create about 80% of employment, establishing a new middle class and stimulating demand for new goods and services. In Kenya, SMEs play a key role in economic development and job creation. A recent National Economic Survey report by the Central Bank of Kenya indicate that SMEs constitute about 98% of all business in Kenya. They create about 30% of the jobs annually, as well as contribute just over 3% of our GDP. In fact, SMEs are the biggest creators of jobs, incomes, and wealth. They are the foundation on which manufacturing and value addition is embedded. Indeed, they are the engines of growth and are key pillars in enhancing the Big Four agenda and also Vision 2030. SMEs constitute 98% of the businesses, and as we've seen, these jobs, especially in the last 2 years with COVID, they have been very instrumental. Domesticating then the Africa free trade area for agribusiness SMEs in alignment with the Big Four agenda and Vision 2030, and which is what I've been invited to discuss today. The African Continental Free Trade Agreement is an agreement between the 54 countries, and I'll try to really explain the way I see it and what I think it stands for. And it was effected in January 2021, whose main objectives is to create a single continental market for goods and services. The agreement is a framework agreement covering trade in goods and services, investment, intellectual property rights, and competition policy. The agreement will allow free movement of goods, services, people, and investment across African continent. It has the potential of socio-economic transformation of Africa through industrialization, improve intra-Africa trade. It can boost job creation and enhance competitiveness of African products within Africa and even in the international arena. The agreement opens a new market of an estimated 1.3 billion people with a combined GDP of $3.4 trillion. It has also been able to lift up, it has the potential to lift up about 30 million people out of poverty. It is the largest free trade agreement globally. If you look at what United Nations Economic Commission for Africa estimates, is that the agreement will boost intra-Africa trade by 52.3% once import duties and non-tariff barriers are eliminated. The agreement will cover a GDP of over 2.5 trillion of the market. The benefit of this agreement include elimination of this tariff on intra-Africa trade, thus making it easier for business to trade within Africa and benefit from their own growing market. It will also help in introducing regulatory measures such as sanitary standards and eliminating of non-tariff barriers to trade and establishing in the future a common continental market. In fact, it's painful when you hear Frank explaining the challenges he had in the border in West Africa, because this tells that many of these benefits have not hit the ground yet. In Kenya, the government will not only boost the country's trade with other African trading partners, but it will also improve the prospects of structural diversification by increasing the demand for manufactured goods and also the exports. It will also encourage industrial development through diversification and through value chain development, agricultural development, and indeed food security. Kenya, with its well-educated population, is keen to expand its supply capacity to export manufactured goods and professional services across the continent, and globally in line with the economic transformation policy to expand export capacity, increase jobs and wealth creation opportunities for citizens, and also promote shared prosperity. The Continental Free Trade Agreement is therefore unfolding as a window of opportunity for Kenya to realize its potential as a manufacturing hub. We will strive to harness our agricultural resources and value add them to supply the African region. We shall seek collaboration with investors, both local and foreign, to increase in-country value addition of our resources with a view to creating job opportunities for Kenyans and increasing earnings. Free trade means the countries can import and export goods without any tariff barriers or other non-tariff barriers to trade. Essentially, free trade enables lower prices for consumers, increases export, benefits from economies of scale, and a greater choice of goods. Further, it will present multiple opportunities for realization of regional projects, which would otherwise not make economic sense for disjointed and relatively smaller markets. It will also unveils ample opportunities for business to integrate into regional and global supply chain and boost productivity, especially in agriculture, where micro, medium, and small enterprises remain the key pillars or even players. The agricultural sector, which is the mainstay of Kenya's economy, contributes about 51% to GDP, 34% directly, and 17% indirectly. Agriculture sector grew by 4.6% in 2020, even as other sectors of the economy suffered a slower growth due to COVID-19. To leverage on the opportunities and huge potential of the AfCFTA portends that there is urgent need for us to, one, increase capacity buildings and supplies, especially on the supply side of the SMEs. This must be done by demystifying the agreement, what it entails, and how SMEs can benefit from it and take advantage of this very large free trade area. Two, I believe that it has to help SMEs identify available opportunities outside of Kenya's traditional trading partners, which largely comprise the East African Community partner states, who account for about 64% of the country's total exports to Africa. The SMEs can therefore tap on this potential for products such as confectionery sugar, fruit juices, vegetable produce, tea, coffee, honey, processed fruits, nuts, meal and flours of wheat, the legumes, and so many others. We can also enhance market access, which encourage and involve SMEs in business, and especially in these export trade fairs in the African countries. We can also take advantage of the e-commerce, and I heard Frank speak to this, in marketing and trading in the goods. We can provide appropriate financial solutions to SMEs where we are able to even help with the credit guarantee systems. Then I come to what Professor Njenga referred to, the cottage industry in Kenya. And as you may be aware, cottage industries are increasingly becoming key in lifting many developing countries into the next level of industrialization. As experienced in Japan, in Colombia, in Brazil, in India, in Thailand, in Taiwan, and other countries, Kenya has had the opportunity to do the same through the One Village, One Product initiative, in which each village, being our smallest economic size area, identifies a valuable local resource for manufacturing and for value addition through either processing, sales, and other marketing initiatives. The model was actually first tried in Japan in 1979 with a lot of success. It aims at achieving regional socioeconomic development based on additional value to locally available resources in the country through resource identification, processing, quality control, and marketing of resulting products. In Kenya right now, we are talking about using what you make and making what you use. Unda unachotumia na utumie unachounda. In this case, we have three principles, namely identification and development of resources at the local level, self-reliance, and also human capital development. Through this initiative, the government will demystify industrialization by acting as a catalyst for community mobilization in the undertaking of value addition at the local level, aggregating at the regional level in readiness to maximize on the country's manufacturing and export potential, thus securing greater regional market participation. The initiative will also ensure that local content is achieved through planned sourcing, alignment, and processing of raw materials to the next level of production for our larger industry, or as finished goods in themselves. This initiative as a concept is also key in youth empowerment and employment, as they would not need to migrate to take part in Kenya's industrial growth. If we are able to continue ensuring that value addition and also even processing is done at source, then there is no need for people to move from rural areas to urban areas seeking opportunities. SMEs can establish at the local level based on the region's resource. Through this model, each village identifies a valuable local item or product, then adds value to it through they can process it, they can establish a sales system for it, or even put together marketing activities. The concept targets to utilize the locally available resources to create jobs and wealth for the local communities across the country, with government only acting as a facilitator. I'm a strong supporter, and Professor Njenga, you know this, I'm really opposed to government doing business. Close collaboration of the national government and the county government is crucial to make this happen. In the past, when similar initiatives were tried in the country, especially OVOP 1 and 2, we had lessons that were learned, and the first one was identification and prioritization of local resources is necessary for effective product development and promotion. It was also learned that there is need to reevaluate the existing local resources, even those previously considered not useful, for product diversification and also for emerging opportunities. It is here that we learned that there is need for linkages with quality and trusted service providers, which help to improve success rates for MSMEs to accelerate their growth. Also, the government can play an important role as a catalyst and a coordinator of technical, financial, and market access, as well as a business development service provider. And lastly, we have the scientific resource mapping of agricultural products that can help countries attract investors for value addition and other activities. In this next phase, the area of focus will be resource mapping in counties and cottage industry, cluster development, and promotion. It is worth noting that in the past, we were able to do a thorough resource mapping in just one county in Kakamega. Benefits to cluster development, and in this, clusters are groups of farms, SMEs, research centers, and investor working groups in close physical proximity to create new technologies, products, and enterprises. The synergies created by such an agglomeration of actors with a certain geographical location can have substantial impact on the economy with the benefits of cost saving and economies of scale. Clusters have been identified as drivers of innovation as companies cooperating and competing at close geographical proximity can learn from each other. A cluster, therefore, offers SMEs the opportunity to access knowledge, achieve economies of scale, solve community problems, and reduce costs due to geographical proximity and increased interaction with each other. Clusters, therefore, provide business with benefits they would not otherwise have had and operate, or if not, they would have operated in isolation. Government support for cluster development and upgrading is therefore justified in addressing market failures, especially in regard to cottage industries. Cluster development will help ease the challenges which weigh down the SMEs, which include information asymmetry, limited market access, inadequate and dilapidated infrastructure, legal and regulatory related constraints, poor quality value addition products, limited access to finance, weak entrepreneurial culture, managerial and human resource constraints, low survival rate of startups, low levels of familiarization, and limited access to business development services. In Kenya, the cottage industry constitutes a large portion of the local manufacturing sector and are popularly referred to as jua kali, some of which operate in clusters. Notable examples of this include the Karioko Leather Cluster, Jogoo Road Uhuru Textile Market Cluster, Gong Road Furniture Cluster, Kisii Soapstone Cluster, Kamukoji Metal Cluster, and many others. We will continue to work with the county government to identify and support SME clusters developed throughout the country, and we invite them to join us in forging and strengthening academia, industry policy makers collaboration for enhanced industrial skill development, for improving opportunities for graduates to get employment, and ensuring that the policy environment remains relevant and it keeps pace with the fast changing times. In conclusion, therefore, Prof. and everyone with us, we submit that the African Continental Free Trade presents a golden opportunity for Kenya's SMEs to survive cutthroat global competition and thrive. This in turn calls for all actors, government, private sector, non-governmental organization, and development partners to work in tandem with each other to support this sector. We also call upon academia to help us change the mindset of the student from job seeking to creating viable enterprises. On its part, industry should reach out to academia and share their skills, requirements, and in turn, provide opportunity for practical achievement for students. From the government side, we are ready and willing to engage to support the development and implementation of curriculum that is well focused on offering solutions to the challenges confronting society and keep pace with the changing times. Once again, allow me to appreciate Strathmore University for creating the forum where SMEs issues are canvassed and solutions generated. I'm definitely happy to be part of this very noble initiative, and I urge that more of the same be held to bring more of these ideas on board. Daktari, asante sana. I really appreciate to be part of this. Nashukuru.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Kaberia. Wonderful presentation and hope from the public sector. May I know whether it is time to ask a few questions through the Master of Ceremony, Martin Bayer?
Yes, Dr. Njenga, you can ask the questions in chat of reaction to introduce themselves. So we've got represented. You can bring that up also.
I got a little bit disconnected from you, but I hope I got some of the things that you said. Ambassador Kirimi Kaberia, wonderful, and I wish we were physically here. We would have given you a big clap. and thank you for your support. But
I hear the clap.
think,
thank you.
Hear the clap. I think we have digital ways of clapping, so we should clap. And also for Frank, who was here. Now, wonderful presentation about the possibilities of integrating, especially the cottage industries, given the power of the SME and micro sector of the country. May I ask you just to speak about two little things, and that is one of the things that these people in this area face is financing. And I know you have done a lot of work, at least the government has. I know the STAWI project, I know the Women and Youth Fund, I know all these things. What strikes me is such a deep desire to improve the market system in the country. But when it comes to acting, we fragment. We don't speak with one voice. We don't see the bigger picture. We don't see our small and medium enterprises linking to Uganda, to Tanzania, enabling that platform, enabling lower cost of financing, at least for the startup, so that they can see a better future and be given, you know, a little bit of time, more like actually the industries that start in the EPZ when they're given a tax allowance, and disseminating this information to them. I wonder whether you can speak to the question of how can we help finance the small and medium enterprise?
Prof, it is a great opportunity to really always be here. And you know, anytime you ask me to come to Strathmore for any of these forums, I will, because they are so energizing. And really, God bless you and continue doing this. Get more and more of us to look at this in depth. To me, and from where I sit, the biggest challenge we have, especially in empowering our SMEs, is we've not used enough of our data, or we've not done enough research to really know where things stand with our resources and even our opportunities. That's why we are employing this resource mapping across the country to ensure that we are able to identify with precision where products exist, where services are needed, and even where factories are required. For a long time, we've been talking about drought, for example, where we say people, the pastoral communities are running all over the place trying to look for grass for their animals. I think we need to change that model. We've had in the past calls that let's take food to the animals as opposed to taking animals to food. I think we need to adopt the same culture with industry and with business. Let's take industries to where the raw materials are. If we are able to do that, then we will have changed the equation in a very big way. Also, we will have provided an opportunity for the small to medium enterprises to grow. We'll have given them the opportunity to have an advantage, because I used to grow mishiri, for example, at some point in my life. The biggest challenge was the post-harvest loss, trying to move things from where I'm growing them to where they're being consumed, or actually to the market. If we are able to establish these aggregation centers, then even the job creation, the wealth creation comes in. The other day, I was talking to a group of young people called Vijana Reloaded. And they challenged me, you know, you talk about Build Kenya and all these policies, but we are here with our products and we do not have enough market. And I told them, okay, let's try and establish a relationship together where we are able to actually market centers of business, like shops, corner shops, convenience stores that simply store items made by these young people. I went to Kirdi the other day, Kenya Industrial Research Development Institute, and they have a great opportunity where young people can go with their products, get value addition, they are assessed, they are helped to actually improve them, make them competitive, and then we can link them to Kenya Bureau of Standards, where they can be given those standards that are globally acceptable. In which case then, even locally produced products can compete with imported products, even in the supermarket shelves. These young people had an incredible idea where they're saying we should actually establish in every county headquarters a store where if you want to buy lotion, if you want to buy common use products, there is an opportunity for you to go to a normal supermarket, or you can go to this 100% local content store that is staffed by products that have gone through this government assisted improvement program that is located somewhere in the middle of the county headquarters everywhere in the country. And this would make a big difference. When it comes to also providing the young people with access to credit, if we can again establish those alignments so that the consumer of the raw material, the transporter of the raw material, and the aggregator, or even the supplier to the final value addition center are all aligned, and the value of that exercise is not based on just that individual raw material grower, it's based on the entire value chain. We've worked with banks to try and look at the small and medium-sized enterprises differently by even building the credit guarantee scheme. The other day, we had an agreement signed between Equity Bank and the European Union to provide that cushion so that banks are able to give this money without a lot of fear that if anything happens, they will not be paid. So it's a matter of government becoming more and more of the facilitator of the process and further away from government itself doing that business.
That's very beautiful. And if I were to conclude, one thing you seem to be speaking to very clearly is that if we build clusters, if we integrate, we will have a better aggregation of products, and we will have better negotiation of credit to the small and medium enterprises. And this is one of the places where all the people, delegates included, and the attendees have to realize that if we could aggregate, we would find a better opportunity for financing, a better opportunity for reaching the market, a better opportunity for lowering the post-harvest losses, for the simple reason that when you fight as a small SME, you find it very difficult to fight the entire system, both policy and competitors within the market, and also acquire trade information. Let me also conclude one thing that has come out from you, Ambassador Kaberia. The market systems, the data analytics or information that is needed for the people. May I ask you from now on that one of the greatest things we could do is to increase the number and make that number aware of market cloud systems and the quality assurance processes and certifications necessary for us to reach that market. This is one prayer I sent to you, because if we have it in a one-stop shop, then the certification process will be very easy, and the clustering system easy, market access easy, and therefore financing and credit easy. Thank you very much, Ambassador Kiremi. We are hosted here, although I'm the Dean, by Professor Ruth Kiraka. I wonder whether Professor Ruth Kiraka wants to say something, because I'm so excited about the opportunities here, Ambassador, and thank you for your kind remarks.
Thank you.
Thanks, thanks, Dr. Jenga. And thank you very much, Ambassador Kaberia, for your very insightful comments and very hopeful. As I listen to you and everything you're saying sort of just very well with what was also shared yesterday. And for any agripreneur in this conference, you leave this conference with a lot of hope about all the things that the government is doing to try and support the smallholder farmer or the small business person. But there's a question on the chat, which is also the question I was reflecting on, about the fact that the reality is we still have a very tough economic and business environment in Kenya. And even as we do all of these things of aggregating, bringing the smallholder farmers together, supporting them with inputs, mechanization and technical support, access to markets, access to finance, we still have this other part that is really eating away at every person in this country, and that is the runaway transport costs and energy costs. And I think this is an issue that is even now being discussed in Parliament. The cost of electricity in Kenya has just gone through the roof, the cost of transport. And at the end of the day, the entrepreneur still feels all my efforts are coming to naught because of this other very expensive components of doing business. So maybe you can speak briefly to that as well, in terms of some of those other costs that are contributing to making a business quite challenging.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ruth. It's a pleasure, and I do hope that as Dr. Jenga said, we will have an opportunity soon where maybe we can collaborate in this creation of centers of truth for our youth. because I think one of the bigger challenges that we have is there's a lot of information out there that is not scientific, that is not accurate, and a lot of our people have not been able to use the right information to make their businesses more competitive, or even to access and utilize the opportunities and the services of government. I agree the cost of energy has become very, very expensive also, and that people are having a very difficult time balancing production costs with also marketing costs. And beyond there, also we've seen that people, the purchasing power has lowered. So when you look at all those things, then you ask what's the way forward. And I think to me, and this is now not just government think, is also me as Kenyan think. Yeah, I think one of the things is we have to look inward first. It's important that we think outwardly, being able to export and all that, but we need to be able to improve our local systems so that we eliminate the unnecessary costs or increase our efficiencies. We also need to be able to find other ways, alternative ways of getting product to where it's used by producing for smaller regions, or even creating chains. And again, establishing those acceptable, trustworthy standards that are also acceptable. You know, in the informality world, there is some degree of comfort, but that comfort is not actually very easy to support, because there is a general feeling in the informality that here I don't have to pay for all those other otherwise necessary taxes, assesses, and everything here. But actually, by being able to put all those together, we are able to do better assessment and see where do we need to lower costs, where do we need to create incentives, because even the incentives that have been given vis-a-vis the results that have been attained, there is a big discrepancy where we spend so much money in incentivizing SMEs, yet you still see the SMEs have not benefited because the beginning point was not fact, was not based on science. And that's why I keep insisting, academia must step up. Some of these resources should be given to you in the universities, and that is what I'm trying to do with the money we have now in the in industrialization. And I'm saying, let us first get the facts. Let us give the money to academia to tell us exactly, do we really have this in Kenya, or are we selling what is being brought from somewhere else? Is this product really viable in this area, or should we link it to another for aggregation to lower and benefit from economies of scale? There are so many other studies that need to be done for us to be able to competitively produce. And to me, we must endeavor first to be able to effectively and efficiently produce for ourselves here. Because of lack of this kind of fact and research-based planning, we end up with these very high costs. And in some cases, even people going into things that are not
I think you've muted, Ambassador.
Ambassador, they cannot even give us what we require. Anyway, I think I'm already repeating myself, but
Hello.
Prof, I think there may be connection issues for Ambassador Keremi. I think so.
Yeah.
I think I don't know if you are hearing me now, but let me conclude by saying that we look forward to really a strong academia, government, and industry collaboration. And also to say to all our participants here that in every county, we have the county industrial development officers who are very, very well trained and who are right now undertaking this resource mapping and also can direct you to where there is support and even finance available. Don't just think of only banks. Think of these officers as a good resource who can be very useful to the startups and small to medium-sized enterprises. Thank you, Prof.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Keremi, and I think we're up to the task. Thank you for the challenge, and you're absolutely right. We shall continue to engage to develop these county centers of excellence for entrepreneurs, but also to do that needed research to inform policy and other decisions. Thank you, I greatly appreciate it. Back to you, Martin.